Tonight, we examine a dramatic phrase circulating across global media. Putin lost his mind, another black day for Russia. Although these words sound explosive, they represent not literal facts, but a symbolic expression of global anxiety, political tension, and media-driven emotion. Around the world, commentators and analysts have reacted to recent decisions coming from the Kremlin with heightened alarm, interpreting them as signs of unpredictability or escalation. When such reactions spread online, the language often becomes more extreme, more dramatic, and more simplified than the complex geopolitical realities behind it. Yet these phrases, repeated in talk shows, social media, and opinion columns, do not arise out of nowhere. They stem from a buildup of political decisions, economic pressure, and diplomatic confrontations that shape how the world interprets Russia's moves. When experts say he's lost his mind, they generally mean that from the outside, the decisions appear disconnected from typical political calculations. But from within the Kremlin, these same decisions may be perceived as strategic responses to external pressure, national pride, or historical patterns. This clash between internal logic and external perception fuels the dramatic tone of modern geopolitical commentary. At the same time, another phrase, another black day for Russia, captures a sense of tragedy or decline expressed by critics who interpret recent events as part of a downward national spiral. This phrase is not literal. It is a metaphor born from emotion, reflecting disappointment, fear, or frustration with the country's direction. In the digital era, such language spreads faster than detailed analysis because dramatic wording captures attention instantly, even when it oversimplifies. Behind these headlines is a larger story. Russia is undergoing intense internal and external pressure. Economic challenges, sanctions, rising costs of living, and global isolation all contribute to a feeling of uncertainty inside the country. For some citizens, the government's actions are seen as protective and necessary. For others, they appear to deepen hardship and isolate Russia further from the international community. These domestic emotions interact with global reactions, creating a cycle in which dramatic headlines fuel public anxiety, and public anxiety fuels even more dramatic headlines. In this atmosphere, phrases like "lost his mind" become symbolic rather than factual, representing fear of unpredictability rather than any confirmed psychological assessment. To understand why these expressions have spread, one must examine the broader geopolitical environment. Russia is a nation with vast resources, nuclear capability, and historical influence. Therefore, every major decision it makes has global consequences. When actions appear assertive, confrontational, or risky from an outside perspective, the world's response escalates quickly. Markets react, causing currency fluctuations and energy price spikes. Diplomats shift strategies, often becoming more cautious or confrontational. Public opinion grows polarized, with some embracing the dramatic narratives and others dismissing them as propaganda or exaggeration. Media plays a central role in shaping these narratives. While journalism thrives on storytelling and emotional connection, responsible reporting requires accuracy, context, and restraint. When headlines prioritize shock value, phrases like "lost his mind," they risk distorting public understanding and reducing complex political dynamics to emotional soundbites. Media ethics experts warn that such language may entertain but does not educate, creating more confusion than clarity. Yet the phenomenon persists because audiences respond strongly to emotional language, and media organizations compete for attention in an overloaded digital landscape. At a psychological level, global populations often project their fears onto powerful leaders. When a nation with Russia's scale and influence makes unexpected or controversial decisions, people assume the worst, not because they know what will happen, but because they fear what might. This uncertainty magnifies reactions, making global audiences more susceptible to dramatic interpretations. In Russia itself, citizens navigate this uncertainty every day. Some feel proud, believing their country must stand firm against Western pressure. Others feel trapped in a political environment where choices made far above them affect their daily lives. With limited access to independent information, many experience a sense of confusion, unsure which narratives to trust. Meanwhile, outside Russia, analysts attempt to decipher the Kremlin's motives, but even experts admit that interpreting the internal logic of a tightly controlled political system is difficult. Decisions that seem reckless from abroad may be viewed by the leadership as necessary demonstrations of strength. Leaders under pressure sometimes adopt strategies that appear extreme, yet may align with their understanding of national security, historical patterns, or personal ideology. This is why dramatic global reactions often reveal more about worldwide fear than about the leader's actual mental state. Nevertheless, the emotional weight of such headlines influences international relations. Countries adjust their diplomatic posture. Military alliances reassess risks. Public pressure grows on governments to respond firmly. In democracies, dramatic media narratives shape voters' opinions, which in turn influence policy. Thus, even exaggerated or symbolic language can have real consequences. However, the essential truth beneath these phrases is more nuanced. The world is not reacting to a confirmed psychological reality, but to the perception of instability. And perception in geopolitics can be as powerful as truth. Whether one agrees with the harsh tone of the headlines or not, they reflect a deep global concern, the fear of unpredictable conflict, the fear of escalation, and the fear of miscalculation between major powers. The world today is interconnected. The decisions of one leader in one capital can ripple through global markets, international borders, and diplomatic alliances within hours. This makes the world far more sensitive to any sign, real or imagined, of instability. As we step back from the dramatic rhetoric, a clearer picture emerges. The phrase "Putin lost his mind" is not a factual diagnosis but a symbolic response to geopolitical tension. Another black day for Russia is not a literal statement, but a reflection of emotional reactions from critics, commentators, and anxious observers. These expressions reveal fear, frustration, disappointment, and uncertainty, not verified truths. They show how global politics, when filtered through media sensationalism and public emotion, transforms into simplified narratives that overshadow complexity. Behind the noise, the real story is about a world struggling to interpret Russia's actions and Russia struggling with the pressure of international scrutiny and internal challenges. Leaders may become symbols, nations may become metaphors, and headlines may become emotional exaggerations. But beneath all of that are millions of people whose daily lives are shaped by decisions they cannot control. In the end, dramatic language may capture attention, but understanding comes only from context, analysis, and awareness of the forces that shape global politics. And so, when people repeat the phrase, "Putin lost his mind," another black day for Russia, they are not describing a verified event, but echoing a global anxiety rooted in fear of the unknown, fear of escalation, and fear of the consequences of power without transparency. The true story is not the headline itself, but the world of tension, pressure, and uncertainty that allows such headlines to flourish.